Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. We're going to dive right into something fascinating and honestly kind of heartbreaking. Today, we're decoding a short but incredibly poignant dialogue called The Unspoken Verse of One-Sided Love. We're going to break down the exact anatomy of missed emotional cues and the bittersweet reality of unspoken feelings. Let's get right into it. Have you ever poured your heart out, laid all your cards on the table, only for the other person to completely miss the point? It's a universal pain, isn't it? We've all been there in some capacity. You might have been the sender, nervously putting out this delicate emotional signal that just vanishes into the void. Or, hey, if we're being totally honest with ourselves, you might have been the oblivious receiver, completely missing a signal that was being desperately broadcast right at you. Well, this explainer is going to show us exactly how that painful disconnect happens, step by step. Okay, section 1. Two people, two different realities. To really grasp the overarching themes of unrequited love in our text, we first need to establish the core dynamic between our two main characters. We've got Ashu, who is deeply, profoundly in love, and Anvi, who is completely and utterly oblivious. This perfectly illustrates the core conflict here. In Ashu's reality, every single word he speaks is a heavy confession of deep romantic love. I mean, he is bearing his soul. But in Anvi's reality, she hears the exact same words and her brain just filters them into a totally different category. To her, she's just getting a quirky, poetic compliment from a good buddy. It's actually amazing and honestly a bit tragic how two people can exist in the exact same conversation, separated by mere inches across the table, but actually be living in entirely different emotional worlds. Moving on to section 2, decoding Ashu's hidden confessions. Let's look at how this dynamic actually builds. We're going to decode how Ashu naturally encodes his deep feelings. You see, he doesn't just come out and say, I love you. Instead, he uses this poetic, indirect language, which, by the way, is an incredibly common defense mechanism in unrequited love. Ashu kicks things off by saying, Anvi, when you smile, it feels like the whole world stops. I mean, wow. The sheer emotional gravity of this statement is immense. This isn't a casual observation about the weather, right? This is a heavy, loaded, romantic confession. Ashu is setting the stakes incredibly high right off the bat, putting his absolute vulnerability out there for her to see. But how does Anvi react? She replies, really? You always say such weird things, but it feels good to hear. This perfectly contrasts Ashu's intense confession. She innocently takes this massive, world-stopping declaration of love and categorizes it as just weird. Nice for sure, but weird. She completely neutralizes the romantic weight of his words, instantly turning a profound confession into just a cute personality quirk of her dear friend. All right, section 3, Anvi's missed emotional cues. Let's break down the specific moments where this conversational disconnect really starts to widen. So after being called weird, Ashu doesn't retreat into his shell. Actually, scratch that, he doubles down. He tells her, maybe because your small things are very big to me. He is trying so desperately to make her see his true intentions. He's explaining why he says these poetic things, spelling out that he pays absolute devoted attention to her every move. It is a moment of pure, raw vulnerability staring her right in the face. So the crucial point here is how these missed cues stack up into a clear progression. Step 1, she completely misses the gravity of the whole world-stopping comment. Step 2, she brushes right past the deep, revealing intimacy of her small things being big to him. And step 3, which we're about to see, is the ultimate blind spot. Now you might be wondering, why does this happen? Psychologically, the rigid expectations of friendship can completely blind us to romantic overtures. We put people in mental boxes. Anvi firmly expects Ashu to act like a platonic friend, so her brain literally only allows her to interpret his highly romantic words as friendly, albeit strange, banter. Her perception is totally blocked by her own expectations. Section 4. The irony of unrequited love. We've now reached the climax of their conversation. The disconnect we've been tracking hits its painful, inevitable peak. To perfectly frame this tragic disconnect, we need a quick literary definition. Dramatic irony. That's when the audience, and in this case, one character, Ashu, understands the hidden meaning of a situation, but another character, Anvi, remains completely unaware. We are essentially watching this emotional car crash happen in slow motion, but only Ashu actually feels the impact. And here is the absolute peak of that dramatic irony. Anvi laughs and says, "You've become a poet. I wish someone would write like this for me." Just let that sink in for a second. She is literally wishing for the exact thing she's already receiving. The poet is sitting right in front of her. The poems are being spoken directly to her face. But because of those emotional blinders we just talked about, she absolutely cannot see it. Ashu's response, well, he says this softly, almost to himself. Someone does write, but you can't see it. Notice how the pacing of the conversation just entirely drops here. This highlights Ashu's internal whispered isolation. It's the painful, crushing realization that his love isn't just unreturned, it is completely invisible. He's shouting into a void that is sitting right across from him. But the world doesn't stop for Anvi. She breezes right past his internal devastation. Smiling, totally oblivious, she replies, "Then that person must be very lucky." The conversation speeds right back up for her. She thinks they're just having a fun, hypothetical chat about some lucky future girl, entirely missing that she is the girl and Ashu is the one bleeding out emotionally. She is completely unaware of the emotional wreckage happening just across the table. Section 5. The unspoken verses around us. Let's conclude this character study by focusing on Ashu's final realization and what this broader theme of unrequited love teaches us about human connection. Ashu replies with a smile that completely hides his pain. Yes, or maybe just one-sided luck. This is such a powerful closing line. What we unpack here is his bittersweet acceptance. He realizes he can't force her to see what she just isn't ready to see. He accepts the one-sided luck of just being able to love her, even if it brings him invisible pain. It's a tragic, yet deeply poetic resignation. So, what's the big takeaway from this explainer? Well, first, remember that expectations shape perception. And Thi's firm view of Ashu has just a friend literally blocked her from hearing a full-blown confession of love. Second, poetic confessions often mask deep vulnerability. Ashu used beautiful words as a shield because the raw truth was just too terrifying to state plainly. And finally, one-sided luck is the bittersweet reality of unrequited love. Sometimes, the deepest tragedy isn't that you're rejected, it's that you're never even seen in the first place. A question I want to leave you with today. Look at your own relationships. How many unspoken verses are we missing in our own lives? How many times has someone tried to tell us how much we matter, but we just brushed it off as a weird compliment? Something to think about, right? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes open and keep learning.